Everybody's saying that they like my style. Wanna know how I do it? I smile. While you were out there saying hey, hi, hello, I was getting dressed up in shades of yellow.
Hello, welcome to episode 34 of the Lovely Job podcast. I'm Leah Spicer-Pownall. I'm the marketing manager of Miss Bush, and this is...
I'm Emma Marshall. I'm the MD of Miss Bush.
And she's very, very maturely trying to make me giggle again at the start of the podcast.
I know. Founder and CEO, not SEO, search engine optimization. I am basically our own search engine optimization. Anyway, yeah, I was trying to... It's Sunday morning, it's early. Do you know what I mean? Both of us. I literally have just owned up to not having had a shower even yet. I have cleaned my teeth. So you could get morning breath through a podcast. No, you can't. But then I'm also having a very, very strong cup of coffee in my cabin boy mug as well.
Yeah, I'm too. My sachet way mug.
We're so camp.
I know.
Next time round the planet, we're going to come back as gay men, you know that.
I think so too. You put stories on this morning, didn't you? And it's just full of Drag Race references.
I know, but I definitely look like the library is open. I haven't actually worked out what your drag name is yet, but do you know what I mean? I could be shady and read you.
I think that'd be good. That's one for another day. We'll come up with our drag names. Read each other.
Yeah, and how I will be.
We have a special Emma roast episode where we just roast you.
The trade are obviously not awake yet because basically the whole of the trade is not likely to be awake this early on a Sunday morning unless they've got a super healthy Sunday morning habit like running.
Although we are recording this in advance again because it's Bank Holiday Monday, so you'll all be listening to this now on Bank Holiday Monday, hopefully. You'll have had a lovely restful morning.
Or you're regretting your life choices.
Yeah, from the night before.
Yeah. I feel like, though, I just have had... My April has been like a Christmas season. It's been like a December party month. We started doing Marshy's birthday really early in April because his birthday's when is his birthday? 7th. But basically, I think it started sort of more or less at the beginning of April. Then we had our wedding anniversary, and we had Easter, and we had Barcelona Bridal Week, and I had the kids coming down to stay. So I feel like I actually can't remember the last day I didn't have any alcohol. Literally, that's such a December kind of way of being. And I'm like, okay, this is... So actually, we're going to a party stand. I'm actually driving.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I'm going to come home and go. Well, I'm going to come home and go out, but it's a daytime party. But I am literally showing some level of maturity, so I think.
Yeah, I don't know if we've had for the whole of April. I don't know if we've had our normal Monday morning.
No, you did just solo. We did a Saturday in Barcelona, so it has been quite different, hasn't it? Oh, and then we had Marshy on his actual birthday.
Oh yes, that was good.
Yeah. So it's been a bit of a funny month, but that actually brings me to the first point that I kind of WhatsApped you about Barcelona, because it sounds bad. There was a lot of conversation about retirement going on or changing the way you work, because quite a few of my peers are my age and some are considerably older. So I spoke to a retailer who was 70, you wouldn't know. Someone who was 60, ditto, you wouldn't know. One of the people, quite senior people at Spicer-Pownall, saying he's going to retire in 2.5 years. Marion, my agent at Spicer-Pownall, her husband is talking about, doing things differently, taking a voluntary retirement and then setting up by themselves. So you suddenly get to this point and you're like, as a 50-something-year-old, 58, everyone knows how old I am, you're like, bloody hell. It seemed moments ago that you were trying to juggle childcare and the school run, and then suddenly the conversation changes overnight. What are you doing now? And sounds a bit gloomy, but you've got more days behind you than you've got in front, and you have to think about it. And at the moment, I'm also doing Charlie Williams' girlfriend is living with us, and she is working at Miss Bush Thursday to Saturday, and she's just in a tearing hurry to plan her life because she's 23. So she's got that sort of sense of urgency and I must achieve things. And I'm like, I've achieved things because of the shit that's been thrown at me, not because they were my idea. So it's kind of a really weird thing to kind of look at so I think there's just there was a lot of conversations around that kind of thing in Barcelona, and obviously because Marshy and I had a couple of extra nights there, we were sort of talking about it as well. And it does take sometimes, do you know what I mean? Like, you think you've thought about things, but sometimes you need to go right away from where you live and where you work and sit somewhere completely different and take a sort of an aerial view of it, like a drone's eye view, and think, oh, okay, these conversations have thrown up a lot of consideration. So it was kind of interesting thing to think about for the trade, which is like succession planning. You know, how do you do this? Because I mean, just FYI, anyone out there, if you want to buy my whole chapel and my business, I think I'd probably sell it all for about 1.5 million, maybe 1,750. Nobody's got that money to buy a bridal shop and a chapel, unless someone won the Euro Millions and decided in a discretionary way they wanted a bridal shop in a
That's what I
chapel.
said to Joe. I said to Joe, if we ever won the lottery, like that much money, I'd be tempted.
Tempted to, like, yeah, then turn it into a sort of an occult station or something. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of, so it's kind of one of those things where I'm in a sort of position where, like, I don't know, you know, I need the income. It's, you know, we own the building, you know, I own the business, you know, and, you know, obviously I own half a lot of Nautier as well. So it's kind of quite an interesting thing to kind of, like, it really threw up lots of kind of conversations about what you do there, because it's a good business, it's a profitable business, it's quite iconic, you know, it's got a nice piece of real estate in the middle of Surrey. So there's loads of really good things about it. And when I look at youngsters setting up, which were like interesting and annoying in equal parts when I was in Barcelona, I was like, you know, they're in a really different space. And like chasing growth constantly. Do you know what I mean? Whereas, like, I'm not chasing growth and I'm not looking at expansion, because that just seems exhausting. It's a young woman's game. But, you know, we do, you know, you have to continue to grow marginally because you've got to keep ahead of inflation, things like that. And we've got escalating set of costs this year, you know, employers' contribution, you know, like utility bills, all that kind of stuff. But it was just really interesting to think. So I'd be like really, really interested in, you know, and also like, you know, like a trade friend of mine, Karina Baverstock, who's just closed her business. I know loads of people. I mean, it was a managed closure, it was a planned closure, it was an end of lease thing. You know, I know loads of people in the past that have literally gone bust, or they haven't found a buyer, or they've thrown in the towel, you know, even though they looked promising and had great concepts, they either weren't in the right place or didn't have the right brand mix. So it is a really, really weird set of circumstances to suddenly be sitting there thinking, well, how long do we go on for? Because, you know, I mean, I've been very lucky to touch all of my wooden bureau here with my health. You know, I've only had really 6 weeks off for my like hip replacement. So, and again, that's when I was, you know, telling you last week about someone who'd been really ill and had to take 3 months, didn't have to take them. I don't even know she knew she was 3 months out of her business. She just was hospitalized. So, you know, it's that kind of thing where you're just like, should we make a plan? Should I be a bit more Charlie and have a, like a, you know, more of a sense of urgency about a plan? And it is really hard because, as I say, it's like we've talked about me being the tip of the iceberg before. And it's like, are we going to kind of like put into our marketing strategy, getting a few more iceberg tips out of the water? It's kind of weird, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Because you'd have to do that, because would anybody buy it without me? And that's like I sound like the most egomaniac-y sort of thing. But do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, there's quite a lot of things that I keep in my head, which, you know, like Rosie and Corinne and everyone else are like, could you just share with us what's in your head? For example, do you know, and it's, you know, that's quite a tricky place to be. So yeah, that was a funny sort of side effect of Barcelona, was like, you know, just considering that. And also, it wasn't the most thrilling collection of gowns I've seen. Oh, I'd say that's unfair, actually. I'd say that there was so much choice as to like almost not bother having a bridal trade fair, because you'd be like, get what you like. Well, whatever you like, doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? Get whatever you like, doesn't matter. Any possibility, anything raided from any era in any fabric with any price point, have what you like, which is quite a sort of strange kind of place to be in. But I think therefore for me, not to see a kind of, or to be overwhelmed by the choice of everything you like, it was quite a hard place to be. So it would be hard to kind of go back to the chapel and going, oh my God, you're never going to guess what's coming. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So, or maybe it's because I'm really old and I've done this for 30 years and I've seen it all before. Which is on the one hand great for like consumers because they know that I've got the experience, but maybe it lacks a little bit of that giddy girlishness, ingenueness that like maybe some other shops have. Anyway, so that's a one reflection.
You had a lot of time to think as well in Barcelona, didn't you? Because there was the power outage.
Oh my God, yes, the end of days.
I don't know how you got through it. I would have hated it.
It was weird.
So how long? It was 7 hours, wasn't it? You were without power.
Yeah, which that's really, honestly, if it had been a power cut overnight, you'd just have been annoyed because your fridge had defrosted.
Yeah,
do you know what I
just
mean?
go to sleep, wouldn't you?
So, but when you are abroad, there's no information, and it's not just a local outage. So it's not like, oh, Barcelona's out of power, so we'll go north. It was like the entirety of Spain and Portugal.
You had no like phone signal.
No, none. No Wi-Fi.
No cards work. Nothing.
Nothing.
It was just you were completely just.
Yeah, and also it was just one of those things where we'd walked down to the water. We were going to have it was a really sunny day. We walked down to the water. We were going to have a little boat trip, maybe lunch on the beach, that kind of stuff. And we thought we'd bought some tickets for a boat trip. And then in the harbour, there's a kind of bridge that leads over to a big sort of shopping centre in the middle of Barcelona harbour, and it's got a Time Out market on the top. So I really like Time Out Lisbon. So it's like a really good food court. It's always very buzzy. There's loads of it's almost like an elevated sort of street food market. So I thought we'll go over to Time Out for a coffee and a bun or something, and then we'll go on our boat trip. And as we walked there, you realize like all the escalators weren't working. It was like, that's annoying, we're just going to have to walk up the escalators. And then when you got there, you realize it was completely dark on the inside, and it was like, oh, maybe they've had, and because this place was almost like on a sort of a peninsula or a little island in the middle of the harbour, I just thought it will be them. But then you sort of realize that, as you were walking back, something flashed up on my phone and said there is like Spain and Portugal are completely without power. And you're like, that sounds like a nuke, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It sounds scary.
It really does. And I was like, it's kind of weird. And then we were waiting for the boat, and I was like, oh, God. Marshy's going, if you could play your games on your phone, you wouldn't mind, would you? Like, I was like, yeah, but I can't do anything. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we can't actually do anything at all. And then we got on the boat, and there was like one other English couple on there. And I just said to Marshy, oh, it's like, we'll get on the boat, and then by the time we get back, it'll have all blown over. And this guy in front said, yeah, that's what I'm hoping too. And so we went around the harbour bit. It's kind of weird, actually, because we literally just did go around the harbour and looked at oil refineries and cruise ships. It's a sort of a strange boat tour, but it was interesting. So yeah, we kind of did that, and then we got off, and it was like by the time we got back, it was like really it was a very different place. All the traffic lights are gone, so you could hear sirens and things. There were people being evacuated from tube stations, and there was a general sense of like weirdness because like people that worked in big shops like Zara's and things like that were sort of sitting across their door because obviously the electric doors wouldn't close, so they had to sort of sit there to protect their shop from shoplifting. Yeah. And also like Barcelona, like any major city, does have a bit of a sort of, criminal edge, and particularly places like the Ramblas, which is this big, very touristy spot that runs from the sort of sea up into the Plaza Catalunya. It's notorious pickpocket territory. So I said to Marsha, well, let's not go up there because while all the emergency services are being diverted, we'll go somewhere else. And we kind of went through all the little lanes and things like that. And that was like, well, all the really tiny old shops. And there was just people sitting in the pitch black again, just everyone just standing around wondering what the hell was going on. So we did the kind of, Shaun of the Dead thing, went back to the Winchester, waited for it to all blow over at our hotel, and you just think, this is kind of weird because that's just too big. It's too big to be an accident. That's too big for someone to have poured some water onto something.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and if that was me, I would have had nothing. Everything is on my phone. So like all travel things or money, everything is always on my phone. I never have analog versions of anything.
Well, I weirdly had cash with me because in a sort of like random banking error. I had some cash to pay in, and Metro Bank, they started off with this whole idea that they were like going to be different from any other high street banks. They wouldn't keep retail hours. They were going to be open Saturdays, Sundays, evenings, all that sort of stuff. They've rolled back on that. So I had a bunch of cash to pay in, and somebody said you could pay it in post offices. And I tried to pay it in several post offices into several different Miss Bush bank accounts, and nobody would take it. So I just I transferred the whole lot into euros. And was like, right, this is my money that I'm going to spend while I'm in Barcelona. Sue's going to have a really great time trying to work out why I haven't done any receipts for anything. So yeah, I had cash. I had a paperback book because I'd started it, and I was like determined to get through this paperback book because it's like a constipated book. Like I can't start another book until I finish this book. So it's really like an enormously tricky poo. It's like literally can't. So annoying. Anyway, so I'm reading. I had a book, some cash, so I could buy some drinks. And the second hotel we moved to is only like 8 floors high. So me and Marshy just climbed the 8 stories to the roof terrace, sat in the sunshine with our feet in a swimming pool, reading a book, drinking beers and rosé, and literally just waited for it to blow over, which it kind of did eventually. But
gosh, okay, I don't like the sound of that. But
but I would say, I don't want to be a doomsday prepper or anything, but I feel like, and also the thing that was freaking me out is that I actually turned my phone off, even though I was desperately trying to wave it around looking for signal. I turned it off because what if this doesn't come back on? This is the only place I've got the boarding passes for the plane. So I turned it off. And Marshy had been taking the piss out of me for years and years about printing out boarding passes, so I hadn't done it this time. I am
definitely do it next time.
Yeah, I'm printing them out, taking the paperback, and folding. Basically, do you know what I mean? I'm going to have a survival snack and some water purifying tablets on me at all times, because when we were on the roof, and Americans going, "Yeah, that's as how it starts. It's the cyber attack on the power. They're going for the water next." I'm like, "Thank you."
Oh God!
Thank you, American. And can you just remind me what your country's done to make the world a safer place? Nothing. Nothing of late.
Okay, right.
That's aside. So that's
on,
not fashion. That's not bridal fashion.
No. And so we've had a bit of a viral moment happen recently, haven't we, for one of our brides?
Yeah.
Who got married last week.
Poppy.
Yeah, so there's a really adorable video of her brother watching her come down the aisle. I think was it last weekend she got married?
Yeah.
And he's just standing there watching her come down the aisle, and he's just so emotional, and it's so adorable and cute, and just it went super viral. I think it's on like 8 million views now, which has obviously been really good for us because people have been coming to see what her dress looks like, which is really nice.
Custom Jesus Perro.
Yes, do you want to tell us a bit more about it?
It's a kind of really lovely version of there's a jumpsuit that we had a few seasons ago called 2214, which was either a jumpsuit or a dress, which was one of the first dresses with a sort of angular square neck and a statement sleeve. And I kept putting and it was done in crepe, and I kept putting a big skirt over the top of it, and like, this would make a really good big dress. So we ended up getting a custom version of that dress done just for us in silk Mikado. So it's a kind of it's a Miss Bush X Jesus Perro special, and Poppy loved it when she tried it on, and she also customized it further with a change to the back neckline shape and things like that. And we did calico intermediate fitting because her mum was very keen on like making sure that it was as bespoke and as couture as possible. So we rarely ever do calico intermediate fittings with Jesus Perro because really it's not, that's more of a sort of Suzanne Neville thing. But it was absolutely completely custom. So, and she looked amazing. And I loved the kind of colour scheme of her wedding, like really kind of that bold, bright colour clash and beautiful flowers everywhere and fuchsia bridesmaids and things like that. So it had a kind of like slightly theatrical, eclectic kind of vibe to it. She's very our kind of client. I don't know how one would describe that. So I've met subsequently lots of people that were either going to her wedding or know her. So yeah, it's really good. I feel like though this is, and I know some brides want their wedding to go viral, but I'd say this was a slightly careful what you wish for kind of thing, because it must be incredibly overwhelming to suddenly see that many people having looked at you and your wedding.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is partly their industry. They both, her and her brother, work within the influencer space, and they ran an agency for influencers. So I would imagine that probably because of their connections, that would have probably aided and abetted that. But nevertheless, it's like, it's still quite, I think it's quite overwhelming for someone.
Especially because they'd only got married like a couple of days before when it went really viral, so they're probably like going on honeymoon and just their phones would have been going crazy.
And it's not like you're a celebrity where you've planned
somebody
for this
managing
and you've
it
got
for you.
somebody managing it for you. And I
Funnily,
mean, I've only seen beautiful comments, but do you know what I mean? It's like, I was listening to a podcast on the way home yesterday, which was Louis Theroux interviewing Barry. His name's not Keegan, apparently. It's Keoghan or something. Anyway, Barry, the actor.
I don't know how you pronounce it.
The Saltburn actor that had his willy out running around the stately home, that one. And he was saying that he tries hard not to read comments, and if he's like preparing for a role, he doesn't go in. But then sometimes you just can't help it, and you go and look, and you really wish you hadn't. And and he was quite, emotional about how vile some people were in their comments. And that, I guess, is the other thing. I mean, I've only seen like beautiful and positive comments, as you would expect on a bridal post. But, whereas we know from me with my kind of, you look like Wednesday Addams or the twins out of The Shining, and why you dress like that, you weird old lady. It doesn't take much for that situation to change. Do you know what I mean? So, and when I've deliberately dressed to look like Wednesday Addams or one of the twins from The Shining, or a bit of a gothic old lady, then I'm like, hey, job done. Keep on bitching, Maureen.
Yes.
But it's like, that's not what you've done it for, then going viral must be quite uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I did actually see a wedding content creator on TikTok post this morning, and the post was how to make your wedding go viral and get published. And then I saw loads of comments, and people were like, "Why would you want this? Why would you want this? What's the point of it? Like, what do you get from it?"
Well, actually, but that to a certain extent is like, brings me to the kind of slightly debatable thing that you've shared with me this week about brides rating their bridal shops they've been to.
Yeah, so I've been spending a lot of time on TikTok recently interacting with things that are kind of in our genre of posts. So bridal shopping, brides getting married, people trying on wedding dresses, so that they see ours. So I'm kind of like making sure we're in that niche. And there's a trend at the moment that people are sharing. So they will do a post rating all the bridal boutiques they went to before they found their dress, and it would just be like a slideshow of images from each boutique, just rating them out of 10. And then the comments, you'll just get people just like slating all the boutiques in them. So I think it's quite damaging for people, really. And there's also a lot of conversation in the comments about appointment fees. So the brides, obviously, they've paid an appointment fee for most of those shops, and people in the comments would be like, why on earth are we paying for appointment fees? So there's a lot of that going on.
Which, I mean, honestly, like, this is like, it's a self-evident thing. It's like, because
You've been to 10 shops, like, 10 and you've only bought a dress in one of them.
Yeah, and if that even, do you know what I mean? And also, it's like, I've got. So, right, firstly, imagine, I watched another thing, I can't remember that PT is, James, someone that I like that's on Instagram. He was saying that he was criticising people about Ollie Murs, because Ollie Murs apparently dad bod and a ripped bod or something, and Ollie Murs is upset about that. I think basically this James Smith PT kind of guy was saying, it would not be acceptable for people like to comment the other way around. So like, if it was like girls saying I prefer the dad bod, it was like, you could, but it's the same thing. So you rate your shops. I'll bloody rate the brides, literally. Come on, bring it on, love. I give you a 1 to 10 score about how well we got on, whether or not you were annoying in any way, whether or not I feel like if it was a sliding scale, like an honesty box of charges, what would I charge you? Because some people would get charged about 300 quid.
Yeah.
Be like, get out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's not fair. And also these people are like, I mean, who died and put them in charge? Do you know? It's not like they're not journalists. These are people trying to create a following off their wedding.
Yeah.
And it's basically, it's like, which I know in the years gone by when the bridal blogs were significant, like Rock and Roll Bride and Love My Dress and all that kind of stuff about my wedding, all of those people kind of set those up when they were wedding dress shopping. So, but they set up a business then around that media. And it sort of grew organically, and then it became a bit of a media thing for a while, and it's not such a thing now because of the, expanding levels of different types of media that are available to people. But they had some context. This is one person that's going to go out there, write shit about people, and then the minute they're married, they're going to go on to like what baby grow. Do you know what I mean? Or like what carpet, or what shaking back, or can I be Mrs. Hinch now? Do you know what I mean? Because they've seen a sort of career path that exists for people to do that. But this is a brief moment in your life. And also this one of these girls is like 26. I mean, what context do you have for that?
It did feel, her account felt very Muriel's wedding, because she tried on hundreds of dresses, and it's just like, are you actually getting married?
But that reminds me of that I can't remember what the journalist's name was that did that thing for Vogue where she tried on 100 dresses. And it's like, and I said at the time, we discussed this on the podcast, I was like, it's just going to legitimise that behaviour for other people.
Yeah.
I mean,
definitely.
at least the journalist would have got Vogue eyes and Vogue readers on it.
Yeah.
Do you know, and probably asked permission to take
and the shop
photos.
would have known that she was doing that.
Yeah,
it wouldn't
absolutely,
have just been
yeah,
afterwards, oh, surprise, I'm doing this about you.
Yeah. I mean, I literally would love to. Can you imagine? I'd like rate it. I was just thinking when we were discussing this from our beds this morning. I can't even remember what the thing is that I said that I could rate them on basically. But it was like, if you just thought that was like,
oh yeah, the one that's late, the one that turns up with
a siege
their
mentality.
crew.
Yeah, that turns up with more people than they said they were going to bring. Do you know, the one that turns
the one that
up
secretly takes photos.
Yeah. Yeah. The one whose mother is totally not on board, that, I mean, it's like, it's quite tricky. Like, and I actually had, like, it's like a quiet season for us at the moment. So I only did 3 brides yesterday. They were all lovely. Do you know what I mean? But I mean, I don't even know if these people would get through our door. And certainly I wouldn't let them. I mean, one of them, I did see that thing you sent me, they said one shop wouldn't let them take photos. But if someone was going to take photos of themselves like that in a mirror, and they said, I'm going to do this because, look, this is my Instagram account, I'm going to do it, I'd want to know in advance. It also presumes that the shop is, like in the comments as well, that the shop has got nothing to give except for a rack full of dresses and a mirror.
Yeah, exactly. Coming to Miss Bush for the expertise and the knowledge and the experience, not just to try on dresses. It's not like Zara.
No, but that is definitely like, but I mean, if someone of 26 has now got that as like their lived experience, hasn't it? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, on the one hand, you can't do that in many other dress shops because, hello, people, there aren't any.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like, so there's not that many places to go. And I think at any given stock take, oh my God, I don't want to explain the difference between a stock take and what our stock is actually worth. But let's just say that to kind of like, to have a really big room full of dresses, you've got to have at least 150 grand's worth of stock in play. And so when people are going, why do we have to pay? It's like, because if you're just dicking around in there trying photos for the internet, then how do you think we're going to stay in business? Do you know what I mean? We have to try and discourage people who are just playing. And that's it and all about it. And if you think that you might well buy a dress from us, then for us particularly, that money turns into store credit. So you haven't lost the money. And it doesn't even cover what it costs for me to open the doors. And
no,
I just
exactly.
think
you're not making money from the appointment fee.
No, literally, I really would have to. Do you know what I mean? It would be like, if I could just rate the client as they left, give them a mark out of 10 and charge them accordingly to how annoying they were. That would be hysterical. I would almost think that like yesterday's clients, I'd be like, oh, don't worry about paying, you will get a 10.
Yeah,
But
that's the thing, you don't get that many
can't,
annoying ones.
No, because we see them off. But it's quite easy to like see what they're like doing. I just think it's like, and also, what is your criteria? Are you fashionable? Are you stylish? Do you know what I mean? It's like, what do you wear normally? Or are you, because basically, also, I swear to God, at the moment, if you just see an endless procession of people in strapless ruched dresses of various magnitude in terms of like size, I mean, like, big flipping deal. They all look the bloody same. And that's I think probably what I got to with the Barcelona Bridal Week thing as well, is if everything looks the same, what's your criteria for choosing?
Yeah.
You know, the criteria has to be, well, that 26-year-old, basically, she seems to have a pretty standard figure. God knows what her budget is. You know, I did notice on her profile she calls herself wifey in training, which makes me want to punch her and like give her like a sort of like feminist talking to. Punch her intellectually, not really physically. I don't
Yeah,
condone
you're not
physical
being
violence,
violent.
but you know, I am not a violent person. But you know, I just think it's wifey in training. What training for what? So your training would be like, I am going to like spend all of my time shopping, and it doesn't even sound that ironic. It doesn't even like.
No.
I mean, if you're like a like ballet farm or whatever it is, go and make some breads
Yeah.
as well. Practice your pelvic floor
Yeah,
exercises.
do some Nora Smith and make some chewing gum from scratch.
Yeah, all of that.
My husband wanted some gum.
Anyway, so that's kind of like, yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. Start rating brides.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I won't. I don't dare.
No, we
I
wouldn't.
wouldn't
But
dare.
that's the thing, though, because we have like such a targeted audience that we wouldn't get those kind of brides. They just wouldn't end up in this bush.
But the thing is, though, I still, and I don't know what, and obviously now I know that loads of people that actually listen to this podcast are the trade, and I like my competitors.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? We have a shared set of experiences. We have a shared set of challenges. We have, you know, we have to exist in the same space, and we need to compete in a sportsman-like, sportsperson-like fashion. You know, so I don't want their time wasted either. It's like, doesn't really do anybody any favors. So if someone wants to like at the get-go of their get-go at their kind of wedding, imagine if she picks a really, really terrible wedding photographer, or she picks a dress from a shop that doesn't do very good alterations or sends her away or something like that. You know, she could have done all this dress shopping and then end up with a kind of bouquet of horribly mismatched like yellowy flowers that are supposed to be white, with a not a brilliant photographer, and it might piss down with rain all through her day. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like it's that sort of thing. And these are the sort of people that will end up opening a bridal shop because they love bridal shopping so much they feel that they could do it better. Anyway, that's a special category in hell for that sort of person. Anyway, I feel like this is going to get me in trouble, this episode, just generally. So anyway, there we go.
It's okay. Yeah, at some point though, I do want to do like a whole bit on appointment fees. I know we've spoken about it before, but I want to do some clips that I can put out about it.
Yeah, I think we should do something about appointment fees, definitely, because it's like, honestly, I just don't even think they're that expensive. Like, it costs me more to go and have a hygienist cause me some kind of like nervous breakdown, PTSD, scraping, like trauma. Like, it's more to have that done in about half an hour. It's like 85 quid to have a hygienist appointment. So for like 50 quid, you get 2 hours with Gusborn and me.
And an expert giving advice.
Expert, yes. Who's not rating you? Who was doing the very, very flippant opposite of rating.
Mm-hmm.
Who is literally trying to rate,
make you feel good.
Is not rating you.
No.
Like, it's like, anyway. So like, there was some really interesting questions. So somebody asked about what styles suit older brides. And I feel like this, I'm just going to generally like start saying this person, you know, privately DM'd me after, because I DM'd her back and said I could really do an hour on this. And I really think we should put this into a timetable, and I think we should discuss it for a solid hour, because it's interesting defining what you would call yourself as an older bride. This woman is like a year or two older than me, so actually like pretty hot, fantastic actually. So not old at all. But I would say that people start to define themselves really weirdly as older brides from about 35. And it's like, oh, okay, that seems like, you know, a virtual child to me. So I guess it's kind of like that conversation about like, where does an older bride, where do you define yourself sitting on that scale?
Yeah, I think if I was getting married now, I don't think I would call myself an older bride.
No,
I don't. No,
I don't. But I don't think that I would be like, I don't think I would be, well, like my friends, like, you know, you tend to be united with your friends that you meet through kids. They tend to be within a sort of 10-year window of your age. So like my friends will be between sort of, you know, my age and about 68. Do you know what I mean? So I could dress all of these people with stuff that's in my shop. So I don't see that as being a problem. I think the idea that, but again, that slightly infantilizing idea of women, that we're all, dressing like a Disney princess in our early 20s, is not a reality for any of the brides, particularly any of the brides that I saw yesterday. I mean, I don't think that's their kind of vibe. So I would say that generally speaking, our collection is my specifically Miss Bush choice is quite an ageless collection. There's not something and also because we can offer any size, made to measure, adaptations, design changes, it's not something of like take it or leave it. And I just, and I think, your point of view about yourself as a woman and your personal style changes as you change age, and if you're my age, then you are likely to be like menopausal, postmenopausal, and, apart from anything else, you're quite belligerent and quite definite about your style, but and the idea of the essence of you being about hotness and youth has long since gone. So I think that those are the sort of things, but that doesn't mean that you can't look fucking awesome. But it's just a different view of that. Do you know what I mean? So I think but I think a whole episode on that is going to be really good. We also had another question about recommended fabrics, and I've been asked this before, and the trouble is this is like literally get your geek on, Emma, about this, because I could talk about this an hour, but I think I might lose the audience, because the thing is with fabrics is they're all chosen for specific jobs and for specific price points, and I think people get very confused about what they're buying and why they're buying it and what it's for and how it handles and what you have to do to it to make it work and those kind of things. But basically, you'll tend to find, like, if you have the kind of dresses that we do and in the shop, which are largely speaking unadorned, then you have to have pretty premium quality fabric. So that doesn't necessarily but you've got the weave, which is the kind of like the visual appearance of the fabric, so whether that's a satin or a macado, and then you've got the yarn, so that could be cotton, it could be silk, it could be polyester, it could be recycled polyester, it could be anything. But the skill of designers is to pick the right fabric for the job. And if you've got a sort of a soft fabric, it may need fusing or mounting onto a stiffer fabric, which means that when you look underneath the skirt or something, you would see it was made of sort of 2 layers of fabric, and that might be there to give it a bit more weight or body or to stop it creasing. Something like a Suzanne Neville corset has got a fused layer of canvas in the middle, which is why it gives it that really solid structure. So it's not actually the top layer fabric that you can see that's doing the heavy lifting on that dress. It's actually the sub layers of construction. So it's kind of like, and if you wanted something incredibly generous as with meters and meters of fabric, then, you probably might be better off going for something that is actually really, really quite reasonably priced, like a man-made tulle is actually really reasonably priced per meter, but you might need 200 meters of it. So it's kind of like, it's not quite as easy a question as it appears. And also like things like where we've got, say, like the pure silk satin from Divine Atelier, they've handled it really well, but what they're not making is a bias cut slip dress out of it or a straight skirt. They're using it and draping it so that light softness of the fabric drapes against the crossed grain and looks very lush and feels like a sort of like a massage for the lightest touch as you put it on. But it wouldn't work for all dresses, and it wouldn't take any volume, and you couldn't put a petticoat underneath it because it would look lumpy. So there's kind of so many different things to kind of consider when you're thinking about fabrics. But what I would say is, if you were choosing something like Suzanne Neville or Hazy Sparrow, like I could tell you and I could ask them to identify the country of origin of the fabric, the actual precise fabric can make up. Do you know what I mean? If you were a vegan, for example, and you didn't want any silk content in your fabric, or you didn't want any fish glue used in any of the kind of like adornments or fish-based or animal-based glues, then again, you could ask me like questions about that, and I could bring you the answers. But and then sometimes when we've made things, you're like, oh, that fabric's got a lot of stretch in it, or that's coming up big, or that one has kind of got no stretch in it, so you're going to have to size it differently. So there's so many different things about fabrics that you need to kind of consider. But it's like if you put your faith and trust into a good production person, because I would rather wear, I've said this before, I'd rather wear something made out of 100% nylon or polyester made by Suzanne Neville than something made out of 100% pure silk made by other designers that should remain nameless. Because some people, the skill is in the cut and construction more than in the actual fabric that it's made in. And also, like, some fabrics are just horrifically expensive. Some laces are unbelievably eye-wateringly expensive. Some of the three-dimensional fabrics are unbelievably expensive, and you can tell these actually, top tip, if you flip it over and say, like, you had a dress, like something with flowers put onto it, if underneath you can't see a sort of cat's cradle of lines going between the flowers, you know that each cluster of things has been put on individually, which means it's quite an expensively made fabric. So so I think that there's, like, I could do an hour on that, but I guess I probably would, like, go back to the questioner and say, can you narrow the parameters of what you're asking me for? Because if you were saying what fabric makes a good dress of this style, then I could definitely be more specific. And also the other thing, and we did this with a client yesterday who was quite pale. We were looking at some of the sort of flat ivory crepes on her, and they just made her look bloodless and sort of unwell. But when we put some satins on, even though people are scared of them a little bit on the hanger because they're shiny on, they look lustrous, and they really picked up her complexion and kind of bounced light around without the need for sort of fake tan and things like that. So there's also how they behave on the skin, which I think is really important. So that's quite geeky.
I saw a really interesting post, actually, I was going to share with you the other day, and I forgot, and I can't remember who it was by now, but it was about how people, when they match their veil to their dress, they don't go outside when they're doing it, and so they only match the colours under artificial light, and when they get outside they don't match anymore, and the veil looks really white because of the optics of the different lighting.
That's because they've also got cheap veils.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Lots of things. When you take optical white out into daylight, it fluoresces really strongly. And you definitely need to look in daylight for everything. And like, sometimes we've been delivered dresses and we've asked for white, and we're like, this doesn't look white. Then you take it into daylight, it's emphatically white.
It made me think how you always, like, go to the chapel door, don't you, when someone's in a dress to get the daylight in.
Mariah Carey and I are definitely of one mind. Downlighters are the friend to no women. So you need to see daylight on things when you can. Because it's very, very different. And also what looks quite different than artificial light, when people go to go, I really prefer this colour, I'm like, let's go look at them in daylight, and they're like, oh, I can't tell the difference. I'm like, I know. And it's also like some sparkly dresses, for example, don't look that or they've got a little thread of like twinkle or something in them. If you put them by the daylight, they don't look it, and then as you move them back into the chapel, into artificial light, you can really see that light bounce around it, which I think is quite nice for that sort of transition from day to night as well. So that was good. Right, so fabrics, do ask me more specifics. I
do think that it would be a really good episode for anyone that's interested. Like, some people would probably find it boring, but I think it's really interesting.
I do, but it's kind of, and I always find it interesting when we get new fabrics and new formulations of fabrics in as well, because they all behave differently. So this next question, second dress for the evening, what do you recommend? I was like, yeah, buy one. I'd love to sell you 2 dresses. What we are finding, though, I would say, I'm going to go brief outline top tips on this. Firstly, if you don't know if you're going to change or not, maybe have a backup dress that it doesn't matter whether you wear it or not, so don't spend a fortune on it. If you know you're going to definitely change, then give the overall budget for both dresses. But what bothers me with that is actually when you have a shorter dress, and you have a really nicely made shorter dress, it's not that much less money than a long dress, because basically all the time and skill on production type is still there, and you've just got a few meters less fabric. So I would say you need to consider it into your budget if it's something where you want both dresses to be really beautiful and really impactful. I would say that having a second dress is brilliant for multi-site events. So I'm doing quite a lot of a wardrobe for people that are having a registry office, and then a blessing or a wedding abroad, and then maybe a wedding abroad and a wedding in this country. I had someone where they were like going to probably do, like, they were marrying someone whose family from a different country, so they're probably going to do a couple of different events for people that couldn't travel. So again, when you're looking at that, you're either looking at putting several different items in, or a core item that can be restyled and redressed to go across different things. I think that when you see a lot of influencers wearing multiple dresses, and you actually look at how perfect they look in each one, you just think, at what point did you enjoy your wedding? Because I can't see how, if that had been a photo shoot, how we would have got time between pictures and takes and shoots. So like when we do a photo shoot, like with the one we did at Cowdrey, for example, we had about 5 or 6 different looks. It's pretty hard to do more than that on a model.
Getting changed all day.
Yeah. So I don't know when you'd sit down and have a laugh.
No.
Or actually find the time to get married. So what I would say to a lot of people is, like, quite a lot of the celebrity stuff isn't real. And I would say that that's probably constructed as an earner as opposed to their actual wedding.
True. Yeah, and we've got so many options, haven't we, for transforming the dress throughout the day. So adding sleeves, adding different skirts, coats, tops, all sorts.
Yeah. So, I think that's a lot easier, and particularly if you're having a civil wedding in one place, you know, sometimes there's not even anywhere specifically to go and get changed. So, and also it does, I mean, for the people that I have helped get changed as well, on their weddings, you know, I don't think the people that you've just left while you've gone for 40 minutes are just 40 minutes drunker. Really haven't noticed. And it's specifically old people, children, men, they haven't noticed. So I think that it's kind of one of those things. I think we're getting so almost so WebMD'd about this. Do you know what I mean? When you go and Google weddings and you find people doing a sort of like crazy in a short dress, you're like, yeah, I mean, but like, work out if you're getting married at 2 or 3 in a civil ceremony, by the time you're married, had some photos, had some food, and it's run late slightly, and you've only got like a couple of hours left, or you're going to take 40 minutes out of that to go and get changed.
I saw a bride actually that had her hair cut before the reception. She had a bob. She had her hair cut into a bob.
Literally, could you be more narcissistic though? Do you know what I mean? It's a bit like other people announcing babies or their own engagements at weddings, isn't it? It's like centering yourself. Like, I know as a bride, you're already the bloody centre. Yeah. I'm going to centre yourself again. It's just bonkers, really, isn't it? And what happens if you had a bad hairdo? Like, you came out and cried.
They did it wrong.
I mean, we've all been to hairdressers and come out and cried because we hate it. Marshy looked like a bit like that yesterday, actually. It's like somebody's done his like skin fade, which is literally to the skin, and it doesn't really fade. I think it looks nice, but it looks like he's very like wartime, like GI kind of thing. But he really didn't look very happy about it. Do you know what I mean?
Poor Marshy. Well, my poor friend's child, his grandmother took him for a haircut, and they did a terrible job. And then they came over, and our other friend's little girl, who's 3, she was like, "Oh no, poor James has had a haircut. Why have you had that haircut, James?" It was so funny. So yeah, don't say that to Marshy.
No, absolutely not. No, well, actually, I think he looks great, but like he obviously was like quite, you know, grumpy. We've got a thing to go to today, and it's not got the haircut he wanted, which is quite a girl of. I think he looks great. Looks, you know, but you know. Anyway, so all I'm saying is, don't trust her.
Yeah, not on your wedding day.
Not on your wedding day. No, apart from anything else, no, just no. I mean, maybe it was quite a funny, but it's a bit like doing a drag race reveal. A bit like when Lydia tried to cut herself out of her dress.
She couldn't do it.
It just went really wrong. So I like really obscure drag race references for anybody who doesn't watch Drag Race, but you know, that would be my worry about that. Don't do that. And then I got a question about veils. Again, I get loads of questions about veils. So it says, can you use a blush as a mantilla veil? So a mantilla veil for me is like something that goes very Spanish style, so that you don't have a face veil. So like if you had a veil with a face veil on it, you just simply don't need to put it forward. But, you know, or you could unpick the comb out of a like a 2-tier veil and use it as a mantilla veil. But technically speaking, a mantilla veil would be one where you've got a decorative edge all the way around it, and it kind of gets pinned into the top of your head. So it's quite hard. And I think quite often my advice is to a lot of like white British women that it is actually quite draining. It is one of those things that makes you look quite a lot like a gothic heroine. If you're very, very pale, white, British complexion or Celtic complexion, it's super draining. It looks incredible. I guess that's why it like stemmed from Spain. So if you've got a North African, Spanish kind of like Mediterranean, like sort of look to you, that you look like you've just come out of like a absolute sort of like Spanish tourist guide from the 70s, then yes, a mantilla looks great. You look like a flamenco dancer, and it's kind of quite cool and alluring. So I think like there's no hard and fast rules with veils. I just think you need to be thinking about hairdo, face shape. Lace again can be draining. It's, you know, at what point are you gonna put a blusher over, or are you not going to put blush veil over? I mean, not many people do. We sell more single tier veils than we do 2-tier. So I think, again, if somebody wants to kind of like give me a really strong example of what dress they've got, what veil they like, and how you would work those two things together, then I'm like never knowingly under opinionated on things like that. So
no, and we literally did it on Rebecca, didn't we, when we did the gothic shoot, because we wanted her to look ghostly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've just ordered a full lace veil as well, which on the right girl is going to look incredible, on the wrong girl is going to look tablecloth, and you'll never know until you get it on which one that is going to be. Do you know what I mean? Or Nana's net curtains. But it's, you know, and I think that's the kind of like it is in the eye of the beholder. And it's sometimes, and sometimes even it does wander towards Nana's net curtains. Maybe the bride won't be brave enough to risk that comparison on her wedding day. And also, why should you, if you're trying to go viral, going to cut your hair halfway through the day and want 27 million comments on your wedding? Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's, you know, these are factors that we've never had to consider before. It's a very weird space to be in, I think. So
we've spoken for nearly an hour.
Content.
I know.
For days, and like at least 3 or 4 like further episodes to think about as
yes, we have. Yeah, we've got lots of good things coming up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And another trip to Spain.
Yes, you've got your Spain trip coming up, which I'm not going to.
Yes, you're going to come in December though, right?
Yes, definitely. I was talking about it yesterday to my friend Kate, and she was like, you've got to just go on some trips before then so you can get used to it. I've never flown before, for anyone who's wondering why I'm being a bit scared about it.
Yeah, but I think that's completely reasonable. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you haven't done it, like, also, can I just say, if you said to me, oh, I've got a fantastic content trip to go on, you just got to get in this helicopter, I'd be like, fuck off, I'm not going then. Literally, I will not go in a helicopter. And also,
the funny thing is, I've been in a helicopter.
Also, I would be like, if somebody said to me, there's the client of your dreams on the other side of that field full of cows, I'm like, they can have another shop then. Do you know what I mean? There's things that I would be like, oh, I'm not doing it. Just not doing it. Bungee jump off this for the best content? No, not doing it either. So
okay, you've heard it here first. We're going to get Emma to bungee jump.
No, we are absolutely not. I see no reason. Roller coasters, I can get myself into a state of adrenaline fueled panic sitting down in a comfy chair. I don't see why I would go and look for it. Do you know what I mean? No. And also, basically, flying is sitting down in a slightly uncomfortable chair. Do you know what I mean? It's not. You know, I've never gone on a plane and turned left. So that's what I haven't done. Never gone business class anywhere.
Okay, well, I'll get there. Yeah, I think as well, if you've been on a plane since you were young and you're just used to it, aren't you? But if you're like 37 and you haven't done it, it's like it's a big build-up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's not like you're not someone that doesn't overthink things somewhat. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, anxiety. I feel like there was something somebody said to me, it was like, I can't remember when I first had a panic attack years ago, which I also realised the other day that I actually, obviously, I can't be someone that didn't have perimenopause. So why I was a bit nuts in my 40s makes more sense to me now. So yeah, like, but if you can't imagine it, like if your imagination can't like work through and manifest all this reasons to be anxious, then you would just get on a plane anyway. You'd be like, all right.
Okay. Okay, right, on that note,
back to our regular Monday slot next week.
Yes, amazing. Oh, and also, actually, while we're talking about veils, I'm posting a video this week with you and Ben talking about veils, which I've had waiting to go from our content day. So look out for that later this week.
Yes, amazing, guys. Fantastic. Okay. Thanks for listening, shop people.
Yeah, the trade.
The trade.
And we'll see you next Monday.
All right, bye.
Bye.
You'd like to know, wouldn't you? You'd like to know, wouldn't you?